Hello, and welcome to an inside look, breaking into a cybersecurity career. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Terri Wallman, the Director of Employer Relations and Internships at DeVry University, and your host for today's discussion. I've been in my role here at DeVry for 8 years now and working in higher ed for 16 years, all in career services leadership roles. Our employer relations team at DeVry University works with employers nationwide, developing partnerships and facilitating events like virtual career fairs and much more to connect employers, students, and graduates who are seeking to explore career opportunities. Now let's jump right into today's discussion, which is focused on careers in cybersecurity. From phishing to ransomware, cyber attacks are happening everywhere. It's important to have people who understand the inner workings of these threats to protect organizations and to train individuals on how to spot a potential threat, which is why I am so excited to be talking with Aaron Bozek today, who is a cybersecurity engineer and a SOC leader in DefendEdge. Aaron is also a DeVry alumnus from 2020, and we're going to talk about the industry, advice on how to prepare for a career in this space, and more. In fact, Aaron and I worked together here at DeVry University for a couple of years. Aaron joined my team as a federal work studies student colleague, working part-time while enrolled at DeVry to complete his degree program. The Federal Work Study Program is a program designed to provide students with opportunities to work at the university and gain experience while in process to complete their degree. Aaron, please introduce yourself and tell us about your role and what you studied here at DeVry.
Hi, so my name's Aaron Bozek. I'm a proud DeVry alumni. I study computer information systems with a specialization in cybersecurity programming. And after graduating in 2020, I started working over at DefendEdge. I started out as an intern, made my way through the levels, became a cybersecurity analyst, and now I'm SOC lead of U.S. operations and threat intelligence. And if you're just hearing SOC for the first time, we are a security operations center whose main goal is to ensure that our client security posture is always top of the line.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Before we jump in, we want to make sure you're getting the most out of today's event. So please put your questions in the chat and we'll try to get to as many as possible during the Q&A at the end of the event. Now let's start with our first topic, to gain insights into cybersecurity. First, let's briefly go over what cybersecurity is. Aaron, how would you summarize this field?
I like to summarize cybersecurity as it's an aspect of a business that focuses on protecting computer systems, your network infrastructure, and from things like theft, data leaks, damage to any hardware, software, or any data that a company or organization may have.
And so tell us, why does an individual need to worry about cybersecurity? And also, why do organizations need to worry?
To start off with, at an individual level, an individual should always have cybersecurity in their mind, especially now as more people are familiar with remote working and becoming more computer literate because of that. They need to worry about cybersecurity because malicious actors, these are the hackers or criminals that commit cyber-related crimes, they're always trying to get your information, whether it's your social security number, credit card information, your home address, to even data like your fingerprints or even your likes and dislikes, so that way they can create phishing emails to more target you. Organizations have to worry about all that and more. Organizations can store vastly different amounts of information and data, and think about what kind of information a hospital or medical practice is storing versus an oil company or courthouse. That's exactly the kind of information malicious actors are looking for.
It sounds like it's affecting all industries. So tell us, how do companies make cybersecurity a priority within the organization?
It starts by recognizing that IT and cybersecurity are different beasts. A lot of organizations try to have their IT department juggle IT responsibilities as well as security responsibilities. However, both departments do have different goals of what they're trying to accomplish. There's like a fly, sorry. By recognizing that these are separate entities and hiring specific personnel to each department, the organization's already taken a step in the right direction to improving their security posture.
Well, what are some of the biggest cybersecurity threats that you're seeing right now?
One of the main cybersecurity threats right now remains to be ransomware. And ransomware usually occurs when a malicious program makes its way on a server or user's computer. Once it has a hold on the device, it can actually encrypt all information on the device and lock out the owners from the data. It's then usually followed by a demand or ransom to pay a large amount of money in order to receive a decryption key to then allow you to access back to your data. It's important to note, though, that you may not get the actual decryption key because these are criminals we're talking about. They're not always going to be telling you the truth. This is especially dangerous as ransomware typically has some form of lateral movement, which is when the ransomware spreads to other machines. And this just further increases any sort of downtime and places huge amounts of pressure on the organization's leadership to actually pay the demand.
Sounds very complicated. So organizations often talk about how important it is to protect data and information, but can you tell us why resilience is so important in this threat environment?
So, cybersecurity is a very fast-paced environment. Sometimes we have to react at a moment's notice for an incident response. And an incident response just means that something is happening in an organization that has either crippled it or stopped production completely. Now, this can be a ransomware or some other form of malware, or it can even be at the user level, because that's something organizations have to worry about as well, is what kind of access users are having. That's something that's very big in cybersecurity right now is identity access management.
Hmm. Really great insights. There's so much to think about. Thank you so much, Aaron. So our next topic is about careers in cybersecurity. Aaron, can you share with us the different career paths in cyber and information security?
So there are a lot of different career paths that a person can take to either get more specific in cybersecurity or just get different kinds of knowledge. There's something called a red team, which is kind of like your offensive team. The red team is actually trying to penetrate a network or computer, like usually for testing purposes or whether they're listed out by a client. They are using some of the same skills that malicious actors are using, actually, but in this case, it's more so for reporting purposes where they'll create a report from their work and give that to the client or user, and they'll usually make changes based on that report to their organization's security posture. Then there's also something called a blue team, which is your defensive team. So that's something I'm more familiar with, where the blue team is monitoring logs, is monitoring alerts for any sort of malicious activity and responding to those appropriately, whether it's pushing scans out, making sure certain IP addresses are blocked, or making sure ports are closed that are open publicly. There's also a governance aspect of cybersecurity. So the governments, I like to think of as the police of cybersecurity, where they're checking our work, they're checking the client's work as well to make sure they're following best practices. There's so many reports and audits that go with that. That could be a whole nother discussion, but it's very important that governance is looped in on everything to do with cybersecurity. There's also cyber threat intelligence, which is also another aspect I work on a lot, where we take information and data from our clients monitoring to create reports, create trends, to track malicious actor groups like hacker groups, and better prepare our clients and inform our clients of the malicious activity that's happening out there. Then you kind of get into more of a build team aspect where they're in charge of not creating applications, but setting up applications or setting up firewalls or things like that to make sure that when we bring up a client's environment, it's already following the best practices that we have. And then there's also another aspect of it where, there's training. Every organization is going to need some form of cybersecurity training.
Mhm.
That's a whole nother position where the trainers are training the employees that are coming on to be always vigilant on the internet, not downloading anything suspicious, even training new cybersecurity analysts as well to what an organization needs to be looking at.
Wow, so many different career paths one could take. So tell us a little bit, Erin, about how can individuals build a career in cybersecurity? Like, where would one start, and where could that take them?
So I would always, as I always say, is always start on the internet. There's a lot of free resources out there, like Cybrary. There's the CISA organization has some free training, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Then there's also something called the SANS Institute, which is your sysadmin, your audit, network, and security institute. They all have a lot of free resources to get started in cybersecurity. And from there, you can branch off. Okay, maybe I like auditing more, maybe I like governance work, or maybe blue team or red team. And then you can look further into those aspects of cybersecurity to get a feel of what you want to do.
Great. Let's talk about DefendEdge a little bit here. So, when hiring, what does DefendEdge look for in a candidate?
So we're always looking for new people that want to branch off into cybersecurity, even if they have zero experience. The skills that we look for are a proactiveness in their work ethic and teamwork. Being proactive helps anticipate threats to better protect ourselves and our clients. This is hugely important because we need people that see a specific log or see specific traffic and think, okay, what do I need to do to confirm this traffic is safe to acknowledge? Teamwork is also hugely important because no single person can be the go-to for anything, whether like new questions on new products or questions on a client's environment. Knowledge has to be shared across a team. There's no bottlenecks are allowed, as I like to say.
hmm So teamwork is critical. What about technical skills? What technical skills can help someone to enter the field?
Always with Wireshark is a big program that we use because with Wireshark we can dig deeper into the packets to see exactly what's going on. Being able to read PowerShell commands as well because a lot of alerts that we get are coupled with PowerShell commands or command line commands. So being able to read what is this command doing? Is this command doing something it shouldn't be? Where's the command being run from? Like what application is initiating this command? That's always helpful to have.
Great. Now, I know you started studying and being interested in cyber way back in high school, but not everyone starts their careers wanting to be in cybersecurity or more generally technology. In your experience, do you see people making the jump into this field? And if so, what transferable skills can help them make the transition easier?
I do see people jumping into this field in the future. There's always room. Cybersecurity is a booming industry right now. A lot of transferable skills that I've seen already has been, being able to manage stress because cybersecurity is a pretty stressful environment. If you're not
Mhm.
used to that kind of level of stress, it kind of does make it a little bit harder to work in. But being able to manage your stress is important, as well as, working documentation. Documentation is hugely important across all departments of cybersecurity, so that way everyone understands why something was handled the way it was, whether it's a ticket, an incident response, or things like that.
Mhm. Great. So, as you know, DeVry offers programs in this field that can help prepare one to become a defender and to teach how to secure sensitive data and protect organizations against data breaches. Tell us a little bit about what lessons did you learn through your time here at DeVry that helped prepare you to break into the career?
So as a student at DeVry, communicating with the professors is a lot kind of similar to communicating with leadership or even clients. So maintaining professionalism when you're talking with your professors helped me because that you need to maintain that same level of professionalism when you're talking to leadership at a company or even your clients. The group projects at DeVry also helped me immensely with my teamwork skills as working with new people with a wide variety of skill sets is always helpful. It even brought in my own skill sets that I was able to take to DefendEdge.
Great. Now, I want to know what is so exciting about your job and what you're really passionate about.
What's pretty exciting about my job is that every day I walk into the office and there's always something new going on. So there's never a dull day in cybersecurity. One of the things I really like about where I work is the cyber threat intelligence aspect, where I'm taking a lot of the skills of documentation and writing from DeVry and school, to writing reports for clients or creating new templates for reports, and just understanding the wide scope of malicious actors that are out there in the world. So we're always tracking them and trying to find trends and better prepare ourselves in case they become more active and do something more disruptive.
Fantastic. I can see you really found your calling, Aaron. So I do have one more question in this on the topic of careers in cybersecurity. But before I ask, I do want to remind our viewers to please leave your questions in the chat. We will be moving to the Q&A in just a few minutes. So one last question on the careers in cybersecurity topic. So what advice do you have for individuals who are looking to start or switch to a career in cyber or information security?
My advice is there's no such thing as a dumb question. Be open to asking questions. Even be open to what you don't know, because not everyone can know everything about cybersecurity, especially if they're switching from a career, let's say healthcare, to cybersecurity. There's a lot of aspects of it. There's a lot of moving puzzle pieces there. The only bad question is an unasked question. So be very open about asking questions, whether it's, I mean, an interview, or maybe if you already have a position in cybersecurity, asking your teammates questions, things like that it's always needed in cybersecurity.
Great advice there. So now that we've gained some insight into cyber and some of the various career paths that one could consider, let's talk about the future of cybersecurity. As we look ahead, what cyber threats will remain an issue, and what new threats do you see coming on the horizon?
So what new threats are going to be coming on the horizon is definitely going to be user-based, the identity access management that I spoke a bit on earlier. Users are probably the easiest target for malicious actors to use to gain information about an organization or access into a network. We've reported on a couple different breaches where malicious actors got a hold of a company laptop, and from that laptop they were able to get into like different servers and get passwords and things like that. And that's something that should never happen, ideally. Another threat would be the ransomware. Just a couple weeks ago, Costa Rica was a victim of a ransomware attack. It crippled the government, and it's kind of surprising that a government would not have proper incident response teams in place, especially for ransomware in this day and age.
That's very interesting. So as organizations are moving to a hybrid or remote work setting, how can they really stay on top of securing data and information?
So one of the things that an organization should be doing is making sure whatever, if they're in a remote setting or hybrid setting, only give them remote access to what they absolutely need. They don't need to be able to access all IPs on a network. They should only be able to access whatever they need, whether it's an accounting server or an HR server with information. Being able to limit that access also helps protect you in the event that maybe their account gets compromised, so they only have access to that information and maybe not their uh, customer data or things like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I can see that. And so how will all of this impact the skills needed for the future workforce? Do you see additional skills that are going to be needed as we go?
Yep. So the skills that are going to be needed in the future is going to be identifying normal user traffic, I think, because users are going to be, if they're in a remote setting, they could be logging in from anywhere. We always have to keep track of where users are logging in from normally, what's a normal location for them to log in from, and then take that. And if we see anomalous traffic from them, then we need to raise that up to a client or to leadership and let them know, why is this user logging in from here? Being able to identify that is important.
Mhm. I can see that. So before we move into the Q&A, I have one last question for you, Aaron. So can you speak to the current cybersecurity skills gap and how you think organizations and higher education institutions can work towards bridging the gap in the future?
So the current cybersecurity skills gap can probably be helped by organizations and higher education institutions by really separating cybersecurity from regular IT, because they will have different goals in mind from what they're trying to accomplish for an organization. IT is more focused on, making sure a network is always up and making sure users have access to what they need to. That's where you get into sometimes organizations will just, when they create firewall rule policies, just giving users access to every IP on their network or every IP on their subnet. Higher education institutions can probably benefit a lot from having specific cybersecurity classes where those ideas and policies are ingrained from the get-go. So when they're graduating and they're working in the cybersecurity world, in the real world, they'll be able to identify easier and be able to meld more with the team if they already have those ideas in mind.
Wow, it really seems like there is so much work to be done in the cyberspace. We're about to head into the Q&A portion of the live event. So audience, please keep posting your questions into the chat and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. First, I do see a question coming in from Herms. He asked, what's a good way to start pursuing a career in cybersecurity?
So we are always looking for new people at DefendEdge. Being able to find internships will help you a lot. I will say that a lot of them are going to be unpaid. So if you can work that, that's great. But that's how you're going to need to start building your experience if you don't have that already.
Great, thanks so much. I see another question popped in here. A question that we often hear is, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in your job?
Some of the biggest challenges I face in my job is, that's a good question. It's always working with making sure the team is following policies and working with documentation and things like that. Being able to divulge information to the entire group of people is always challenging, to making sure that it's all understood the same way and everyone's on the same page. That's why it's always important. That's why communication is always important in cybersecurity, whether it's by communicating verbally like we are right now, or even emails or Teams messages or whatever you're using.
Yeah, I know you said earlier that it's a very fast-moving pace with cyber and the threats that are coming in all the time, and that stress sometimes plays a role in that as well. So we have another question that just popped in, and so regarding transitioning, often people ask about transitioning from, let's say an unrelated field into cyber. What types of non-technical skills do you think will help someone to transition?
Non-technical skills that can help someone transition. Let's see.
I know you mentioned teamwork earlier.
Yeah, teamwork is a pretty big. That's going to be the same across all industries of the business where teamwork is key. I've seen people come in from healthcare, go into cybersecurity, and absolutely they're rock stars. So don't think that your current field is unrelated in any way. I'm sure you have some skills that can translate well into cybersecurity. It's just a matter of taking those skills and implementing them in a cybersecurity aspect. So it's always be thinking about that.
And I know you mentioned communication was critically important as well. What about leadership and taking initiative? Does that play a part at all?
Yeah, leadership definitely takes a part because sometimes someone definitely needs to take charge in a certain situation. When you're talking about instant response, that should already be documented. But if you're in a teamwork environment, if you're working on if a ticket comes in and let's say the network's down, you'll need someone that's taking lead of that, that's checking in. Why is the network down? What is this in relation to the firewall security policies? Is maybe something get turned on but it shouldn't have, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Stephen is a first-year DeVry CIS cybersecurity student currently, and Stephen asked, are there any specific certifications to focus on getting first to land an entry-level job or an internship?
Yep. So Sec Plus is always good to have because it'll give you a lot of the same knowledge that you have or that you'll need to have. And what's going to need is Sec Plus is also you'll also see that a lot. but also specific Cisco or Fortinet firewall certifications are always going to be needed, or are not needed, but that'll help you get your foot in the door of what knowledge you need to know about that.
Excellent. Now, Kevin asked, what's the best way to get Blue Team hands-on experience and effectively learn how to do that type of job?
See, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The Blue
The
Team.
best way to get some,
Yeah.
yeah, the blue team hands experience. So, what that's going to be look like is being able to read security events, security events, incidents, and event manager, like a SIM. Being able to understand what those events are actually doing. If there's a false positive, sometimes we'll see an event and maybe it does look, oh, it's a high alert, and we need to respond quickly to that. However, through investigating with the client as well, and by knowing what our normal process is in a network environment, we can you'll find ways to like acknowledge an event and it's a false positive.
Thanks so much for answering these questions, Erin. So to wrap it up, I want to thank you all for joining our discussion today and for participating in the conversation. Thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your work experience and your perspective. We truly do miss you here at DeVry, and it's great to see you again and learn about all these things that you're doing out there in the field, putting your education to work out there. If anyone is interested in enrolling or learning more about DeVry's cybersecurity programs, please either reach out to a DeVry representative or go to our website at devry.edu. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn to get updates on more events. Bye for now. Thanks again, Erin.
Thank you.